It's like this little dirty little bass line.
I don't fucking care. Can we move on to a new segment, please?
Welcome to Just Two Fans, a sports show about sports,
Obviously.
about life,
Because sports are life.
and about just whatever the hell we feel like talking about. So, let's go.
Yo, I can hear you. All right, welcome into the Just Two Fans podcast. Chris Burkhart here finally today with Jamie. I barely have my voice, Friedlander, and Eli. I can't get people's voices onto the stream, Johnson. So we're gonna have some fun today, talking sports, baby. What say you? Nothing. No one else has got anything. Well, in the meantime, while we sit here and we try to figure out our audio issues, if the world can hear me, I'll tell you. If you like this voice, keep in mind, well, you're echoey, but that's because I have the stream up, I think. But I don't know.
I don't know.
Sorry, I'm here. I'm just trying to not have a stroke in the chat, apparently.
Hey, I think I'm around now. I think I'm good. Here we are.
There you go. Okay, good job. Good job.
All right, everyone, we're here, my dudes. Welcome to the Just Two Fans podcast. Like Chris said, Jamie is not going to be here today. He's
here.
He's here. He's behind the glass today because he has no voice, or at least a very little voice. So it's going to be Shaboy Chris and Eli, our local birthday Howley over here, Chris Burkhart. And he's like, fuck you, man. And Jamie's gonna be behind the glass because he'll only chime in when his voice feels strong enough to, and definitely when Colorado's up.
I'll chime in when you guys make me.
Yeah, when we make him. So Chris, how you doing, bud? How was your birthday?
My birthday was great. It was an exhausting weekend. I was all over the place, dude. I was out in Ridgeview, pretty close down there to Eli's old stomping grounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've run some high school volleyball championships, and I had to bounce over to Lane Community College for cross country championships, where it was an absolute downpour, and I gained 20 pounds of water weight. Like, it was pretty brutal.
So I was supposed to go to that because my nephew placed 11th in it. Go at him. Good job.
Should have told me.
I didn't know you were gonna be there. I didn't know. But I was going down, and I gave myself 2.5 hours to get there, and I got on I-5, and it was so pouring that people were wrecking all over the place. Took me 2 hours and 45 minutes just to get to Eugene.
Wow.
So I missed the race, but I ended up going to the Duck game still. So I understand what you mean by 20 pounds of water weight.
Yeah, it was wild, and it was also painful, though. I mean, I was obviously there for work. It was wonderful, but to be in Eugene and to be at Lane Community College all day and then leave Lane Community College in the afternoon to go to Springfield for the rest of the night, because I was at Springfield High School for volleyball again. I'm like, I am in Eugene, very rarely here. I'm here, the Ducks are playing, and I don't get to go. Like,
That's
this
crap.
is torture. I know. I still have to try to butter up the boss a little bit, because the state championship games for football are happening on a Friday and Saturday. The 24th and the 25th. So while I'm supposed to be covering high school championship day, I also have Civil War tickets, and
Ooh.
I have to try to find a way to get out of this one.
If you can, I'll take them. Don't worry about it.
I'll keep you in the know.
All right, let's jump into sports here. How does that sound, since this is a sports podcast?
Let's
Psalms
do it.
one of our hosts today. let's start with the World Series because we haven't covered that since we had to skip last week because Jamie and I are old men. Jamie got a cold that led to laryngitis. Jamie's dying apparently, and I couldn't sit straight for 2.5 hours or 2 hours, however long we need to do this, because I threw out my back hammering a nail into concrete. So, we're struggling, but
just be glad for a minute that you don't have kids. I threw my back out putting together a playhouse one time.
Oh no, Chris, that's worse than mine.
I know. I'm just like stuck in the thing, like I can't move. I'm done. This is bad.
Not only do I have laryngitis, but I wake up with phantom pain now. Like my knee just randomly hurts. Like the shit sucks, dude.
Oh, dude,
they're old.
Like, everybody says when you get old, things start going out, and you're like, I'm in my 20s, yeah, fuck you, old man, I'm fine. I'm gonna be fine forever. I'm not gonna get rickets or whatever the fuck old people get. And here I am, complaining about my back, like Jamie, I wake up, my shoulder, I slept wrong. My shoulder hurts for a week. It's just this fucking blows, dude.
It sucks ass.
That's why
Tell me about it.
I told Jamie when my back's done hurting, I think I'm going to start training mobility more than anything because I hear that helps. And I've actually felt the sting of age, and I'm sick of it already. So we're just going to... What?
You're talking to the guy who just had a birthday and is already older than you, too. So everything you're saying hurts a little more. My joints are aching just listening.
I know, man. It's bad. It's bad. But anyways, to the World Series... Rangers won the World Series against the D-backs, the kind of unlikely World Series we had going out here. Did you watch it? Did you have fun with it? Did you?
A little bit of it. I feel like I deserve a little bit of credit for this World Series, even though I was a year off because it was not this season's but last season's MLB predictions that we did. That I picked the Rangers to come out of the NL West, and you guys laughed at me. I'm like, I think they're on the come up. They're on the come up. Maybe not this year, but they're on the come up. I didn't expect a World Series win 2 years later. Let's not be crazy here. But I feel like I kind of on this one because I thought they were going to be good over the next handful of years, and I think it's always fun to watch a team win a World Series when they have, or a championship in general when they haven't won one before. So good on them.
Always, yeah. I'm watching all the reactions online of people sobbing with their dads and shit. That always gets me as a sports fan. Okay, I had somebody the other day be like, sports are dumb. Why do you like sports? And I was like, look, modern society has 3 things in common with across all societies throughout history. And one of them is sporting, competition. And so it's one of those things where you can't describe it, but sports aren't dumb. It's art, sports, and music are 3 things that every culture has in common.
Hey man, I've got to the point in my life where you like what you like because the same person who's going to tell you, why do you like sports? Sports are dumb might be the same person who absolutely goes ham and stands over Taylor Swift like nobody's business, right?
Yeah.
Is what I was going to say.
It's like the battles I get into my wife with my wife sometimes. She's like, "Oh, you did play video games." I'm like, "Yeah, and all you did is watch CSI on repeat, video. Your CSI and Criminal Minds. That's your video game.
You're at least actively engaged in yours.
It's true.
You're
is she.
working out
She's
your
plotting.
mind.
She's plotting her plan how to eventually off me via Criminal Minds.
Cool. Yeah, I watched the first game on the plane to Utah to go watch the Utah game with my boys.
Nice.
And it was a great game. I think that one went into extras, right? Game 1.
Yes.
I think so.
I can't remember.
It did. It was great. The Rangers were 11-0 on the road in playoffs, which is pretty unheard of. So that was the World Series. They did it. Congratulations, Rangers. I don't really have much else to say on it because, I'm a Mariners fan. Moving on to Formula One. So we got 2 races to talk about today. We got the Mexico GP, which I was actually not able to watch, and I forgot to watch it. So, what do you have to say about it, Chris?
I tuned in late enough to go, oh, cool, Max Verstappen again. But no, it's Formula One. It's interesting. I think it's I mean, all things considered, crazy little weekend. I mean, dude, like can Ferrari be any more Ferrari?
Oh my god, dude!
Like, hey, I'm just gonna lose my hydraulics on the warm.
Oh no, that was
lap.
this week. That was Sao Paulo.
Right. I know.
So,
I'm just saying. Like,
yeah.
I'm just saying in general. Like, okay, but no, it's Mexico. Good race. Yeah, Sao Paulo is the one that was in my head for the moment there. But yeah, man, it's the same shit, different day, right? The races just keep going. During the Sao Paulo GP, I texted. I don't remember which group chat. I have like 4 group chats that are like mostly the same people, and then like one other random person, and I get them mixed up all the time. But during the Sao Paulo race, I think I texted you guys, and I was like, "Is it just me, or does this race suck?" I don't know how you guys felt about it, but like outside of like the first, like Leclerc going out at the formation lap, and then the last lap between
Checo
and Alonso. Outside of that race was so boring to me. There's just like there was no intrigue through the whole race. Everything was just felt so standard. I don't know. How do you feel about it, Chris?
That's the same. It's like these feel like you said so standard. You can kind of script these things at this point. A couple of races over the last few rounds have been nice because there's been some really good battles throughout the field, and this one just felt dead. Like
it just flat.
It just felt dead to me. It was a weird race from the jump.
Tugboat says you got to watch their feet.
Get fucked. Next up, we've got Vegas coming up this weekend. You excited for the next weekend? Yeah, next weekend. Sorry. Are you excited for the race?
I am excited for the race. I think Las Vegas as a city is ready for it to be done because all the locals are just pissed off because of all the construction that's been going on.
Yeah.
And here's the latest.
They're resurfacing the whole grid, right?
Yeah, but they're doing that, and then they've put up extra pedestrian walkways, but all the ones that are already there, they've done like you guys have, or Eli's been to PIR for that Indy race. How the walkway over the track is closed so that no one will stop and stare at the race, right? Well, they've done that to every single walkway on the strip right now. And they've had that weeks in advance, and so people are pissed because it's like I'm here on vacation, not for F1, a month ahead of time, and I can't even see the strip.
People are tearing them down.
Yeah,
that's what I'm seeing. And I'm like, fuck yeah, guys! If you're gonna have a street course, if F1, if you were doing a street course on one of the busiest streets in the world, you have to expect people getting in for free, somehow, some way, getting a view of the track. You have to expect it. I get trying to mitigate it, but like putting up film over like restaurant windows and shit, fuck that.
Right.
Okay, so the restaurant windows is totally different conversation, but the bridges, the FIA does this at every street course, and it's a safety thing.
No,
because
for sure.
If you get a bunch of crowds on those footbridges, they become unsafe. And they've also historically had people jump off of those bridges onto the track. Okay. So Eli, you said you saw them tearing the film down. They put the film back up. There's also cages and like lights. So they're literally not going to be able to see, but it is more of a safety thing on the bridges than it is preventing people from watching.
Gotcha. All right. Now here's the latest. Have you heard the latest news out of Las Vegas?
Nope.
Okay. This is it. It's called suspense.
Ooh. Or dead air.
So the Hospitality and Bartenders Union may strike within the next week in what would be the largest hospitality strike in U.S. history. A projected 35,000 casino workers walking off the job to strike just in time for F1. So F1 might have thousands upon thousands of people who came to Vegas for that race with no bartenders and restaurant workers.
Oh, shit. Ooh, buddy. I mean, here's the thing. I feel like with something like that, all they have to do is be like, hey, look, if you come scab for us, you're going to get money and you'll also be able to kind of see the race. And so I think there's going to be a lot of scabs coming in on that one.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying, just crazy timing.
It'll be a scramble. It'll be a scramble for sure. I wouldn't want to be a part of that F1 committee waiting for that
shit. The strike and the nonsense that the locals are dealing with aside, I am hyped for this race because I want to see what this circuit looks like. I want to see every single one of those cars hitting 12th gear on the Las Vegas Strip.
Dude,
I mean, it's going to
so
be
fast.
Unreal. It's going to be a very fast race, which means Max Verstappen's going to win this race by like 35 seconds.
I think you say like, yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be cool to see him go super fast. But also I think it's going to be a really boring race. There's not a lot of overtake area outside of the strip. You can, like, if you're in DRS zone, but I think it's just going to get really spread out.
No, I agree with you. I'm just hyped because anything Vegas I like. So the spectacle of these cars rolling.
The
with
race weekend is going to be dope. Like everything cool about it is going to be dope. I think except the race.
Right.
This race is going to be like a Michael Bay film.
Yeah.
All the visuals are great. The substance is shit.
It's not there. And then he's going to have a grenade go out in front of you and give you like a 30-foot plume explosion.
There you go.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I'll love it. Cool. That's Formula One. Jamie, any other thoughts on that, or Chris?
Other than Checo going out on the first lap of his home Grand Prix, which really sucked. You guys kind of skipped over Mexico. It was totally his fault. He was being super aggressive. We don't need to get into it. But, yeah, I mean, it's tough, right? Because the championship's over, so F1's just kind of like, and the middle of the pack stuff's interesting with Lewis fighting with Checo for second and all that stuff. But, yeah, hopefully we can get some more competitive racing in the next couple years.
Yeah, I think we will. I mean, we saw the gap at Sao Paulo. Lando Norris is right there, man.
I mean, that McLaren car has come. It would be amazing if we don't hear in like 3 months that they were cheating somehow, because that car was such shit.
It was so garbage, and now it's good. And you see Aston Martin coming back a little bit. Ferrari still being Ferrari. I think you're starting to see the field even out a little bit, which is exactly the intent of the rules that they placed. We'll see if that actually holds true to the end of the season and also next year. I would love to see actual parity in F1. Aha! I said it, guys. And now the podcast devolves.
Did you see Lewis's quote about the W14? How he can't wait to be done with it. It was pretty hilarious. After that car, the Mercedes looked terrible on Sunday.
Oh, it was horrible.
And he basically just said, I can't wait to be out of the. He said, what do you say? He's like, there's 2 more races left, and hopefully I never have to get in that thing again.
That tracks. That tracks for old Louis. Cool. Let's move over to the NFL. I don't really have a lot to say about the NFL. I don't really care about it as much. But I will say one thing, and that is
What's that?
Absolutely no one beats the Broncos 17 years in a row, baby. No one does it. 16, okay. 17, no thank you, sir.
It's 17 times, not 17 years.
Okay, 17 times in a row. No one does it. Can't do it. Anyways, so Jamie put on our rundown today one other thing about the NFL, and I don't know if you have any thoughts on this, Chris, if you even saw this, but one Philadelphia Eagles assistant appeared to be wearing a thong on the sideline. Chris just laughs.
Hey, man.
Hey, do you,
You
man.
do you.
I looked at the picture. I think it's just that his like boxer briefs or whatever have like a white, like a multicolored band, so it looks like a white stripe on a white body. It looks like a thong. It looks like a thong.
So I put it on there with the same thought. I'm like almost certain it's not a thong. I just think it's hilarious that Twitter blew up about there being
also
a thong.
he's staring into the skid, which I like a lot because he's like shit, we're 8-1. I'm gonna keep these rolling, baby. Like wear them every game. Yeah. So that happened.
That's what I do. If I wore a thong one day and my team won, like, well, shit.
Guess I'm wearing
Guess
a
I
thong
gotta wear it every
forever.
game now till we lose.
Chris, don't act like that's not the underwear of choice for you. Come on.
It's not.
We know.
It's not.
We know. Everybody knows, Chris. Everybody's like, Chris wears thongs. I bet it's comfortable. I don't know. Maybe
Probably
I don't know,
is.
your balls might fall out, but I don't know. Well, you know what? Let's move on.
The aerodynamics are undefeated, though. I'll tell you that.
Undefeated. A couple quick things after that non-serious note. Couple really unfortunate things happened this week in sports. We got Adam Johnson in a really unfortunate accident. I don't know what league he was in, but a hockey accident where it was he was skating and a dude lost his balance and clipped him on the artery with his blade, and he passed away. Really sad day in sports when something like that happens, right? Like, sports are inherently dangerous, but you never want to see something like this. I don't know if you saw anything about it, Chris.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like, it's rare, but you've seen it. You've seen it happen before. A player take a
Yeah, it happened to a
the blade to
goalie
the-
like in the 80s, right?
Yeah, you've seen it before where the player takes a blade to the neck. This particular league wasted no time in making it mandatory for all players to wear neck guards the rest of the way. And it's actually one of those things that I always think about watching hockey. Like when you see a scuffle or someone get hit hard, and I mean, you see them get hit and checked to the point where, you know, their feet are up above their head, you know, and then those blades can go anywhere, and those are obviously very, very sharp blades. But no, like you said, it's a tragic accident, and you don't anticipate it, you don't want to see it, but I mean, it happened. I think you got to say, if anything, you know, good on that particular league for saying, okay, let's put in safety implementations right now. We got to fix this. I think that's what a good league does. I mean, we were just talking about F1, right? And F1 has a history as well of drivers dying in practices, dying in races, and then F1 usually comes forth and puts something in place to try to prevent that and learn from it. So it's very, very unfortunate. I just hope that it wasn't, you know, an in vain type of thing. Hopefully the leagues learn from this and protect the players a little bit from those freak accidents.
Yeah, man. Tell you what, too, he was a tough dude. I don't know if you saw the video of it. It came across my TikTok feed at one point.
I did not, and I don't need to.
Yeah, I don't recommend it, but like, it happened, and like immediately you see, you know, the blood going everywhere. But
I don't think I could watch it.
got
You're already
up
making
under
me.
his own power and skated off the ice like it was nothing.
Ugh.
Like, unbelievable, man. But rest in peace to Adam Johnson.
You're already making me squirm. Like, my wife picks on me. Like, I have a severe neck phobia. Like, I can barely wear necklaces. Like, I don't like shit touching my neck sometimes. And it's like just the idea of it is just making me squirm.
Get the
Oh my
heebie-jeebies.
gosh. Yeah.
Another sad news. Bobby Knight passed away over the weekend. Controversial figure in the game, but undeniably a fantastic coach. Got results. I don't know, anything you want to say about that, basketball man?
No, I mean, he's a legend in the coaching ranks. I think he's also kind of a legend in the awful human being ranks. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think he can be credited with changing the game in a lot of ways for the way he coached. But yeah, as a person, he was notably kind of an asshole and not very great to his athletes, and not great to the media whatsoever. As a member of the media, that one hits home for me. But I mean, absolute great coach, and he never got the moment to become a media darling, to make it all swept under the rug, right? Like we've talked on the show, like Mike Leach, right? Like Mike Leach locked a player in the closet, right? Like he was notorious for a while there too, not being the greatest dude to his players. But by the end of his career, when he was a quote machine, he became a media darling, right? Yeah. And it was,
Have you read the book The System?
No, I have not yet.
I'm gonna bring it to you because that really sheds some light on Mike Leach to me, and like his thinking, and like he wasn't a perfect guy, but some of that stuff might have been blown out of proportion, in a lot of ways, and but I mean. Anyways, it's called The System, like the glory and scandal of college football. I have a copy on my bookcase right there. I can bring it to you at some point. It's a fantastic read.
Well, I'll read it. And I was, I'm more into Leach's death. I think the point I was just making is like there was a point in time where this guy was kind of that bad guy for a quick moment too, and then he redeemed himself in ways. Like I said, he became a darling and a quote machine. Bob Knight, really did. And of course, the classic. The classic "bury me upside down so my critics can kiss my ass," though. That's an all-timer.
That's a solid one. That's a solid one. All right, let's jump into the thing that brings us here every week. The greatest sport of all time.
The NBA in-season tournament? Hell yeah, bro. Let's go.
Okay. Yeah, those courts are disgusting.
We'll talk about it.
Terrible. They're disgusting. What's the point of this tournament? I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. I don't like it.
Money.
I know. It's money, but it's dumb. It's dumb money.
Can't hit that note. Yeah, those courts are terrible.
Hideous. That got through multiple levels. Even my nephew is like their target market. He's a 16-year-old, 17-year-old high school kid who loves basketball. And that's it, their target market, and he even is like, those are disgusting.
my takeaway, and I don't know how to back this up, but I would like to see the reaction from the Chinese market, because the NBA caters to that market, because people don't realize they make so much money off the Chinese market. Basketball is the most popular sport in that country, in a country that has like half the world's population, right?
Yeah.
There was a couple years ago, we were at NBA Summer League, and one of my coworkers, her husband, was working with the NBA broadcast and telling me that they were broadcasting entire games vertically instead of 16:9. They were broadcasting games 9:16 instead, because in the Chinese market, they don't turn their phone sideways like most of us do. They watch videos vertically. And so the NBA broadcast entire Summer League games 100% vertical.
Wow.
To see how that worked in the Chinese market. So I would like to see how those courts played there. My assumption is that the Chinese market goes, okay, we might like basketball, but we also know a trash court when we see one.
Let's hope. Let's hope.
Come on, we're all Oregon Duck fans here, and it's like these NBA courts make the Deep in the Woods court look good.
Hot take.
And that's saying
I love
something.
The Deep in the Woods court.
Oh, the Deep in the Woods court is trash with a capital T, dude.
I love it, dude. I hate it on TV. Yeah. I love it in person.
Yeah, because every basketball player wants to play on a court where they can't even see the half court line. Like
they fixed that, Chris.
I'm still stuck in 2011. That's where my mind is. I don't want to age, but no, I think the Deep in the Woods court is absolute trash.
My hot take is I love it.
Go Ducks.
That's a hot take because it is a trash court.
I think
it's trash.
It's
better in person, Eli. I will give you that.
So good in person.
It is better. It is.
I hate
god
it on
awful on television.
It's awful.
It
on
is
television.
fucking.
I will give you
terrible.
That. You have to have the whole effect.
It's so bad.
Hey, to be fair, Drummer Duck, he's like, nothing like a mid-season tournament week 1 into the season. No. It's never billed as a mid-season tournament. It was billed as a in-season tournament. So they're right here. It is in season. It's not mid-season. In season. All right, moving on to the important stuff.
Let's get to the real shit.
You're trying to polish a turd.
Mythbusters
Just like your
prove that
voice.
you can.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about college football. We're not going anything else. We're not going
Let's
anywhere
do
else,
it.
Chris. First and foremost, the Michigan sign stealing extravaganza just keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper, including today when Michigan is now reporting that Ohio State, Purdue, Rutgers, and Indiana have all been sharing their signs between each other. The Big Ten is about to eat itself right as Oregon comes in. I hate it, guys. Like we have the Connor Stallions showing up on CMU's sidelines earlier in the season. Man, this is insane. Like
insanity.
We first talked about this. We're like, yeah, it's not really in the spirit of the game, but it's not like that bad. It's become that bad in my mind. This is like full, like, especially watching the videos of Connor Stallion standing right next to Harbaugh, telling him their plays. Like, that's messed up, right? On some level, like they look at their signs and he literally turns to Harbaugh, says the play, they call the audible in, and then Michigan's in the perfect alignment. Like I said the first week, if this is like during the game and they catch on to this, like the signs like Baker Mayfield did a couple weeks ago in the NFL, where you catch on to what they're doing and you catch on to their signs, sure, that's different. But like they're actively going out and getting these things and then using it to gain an advantage. And I was still kind of like on the fence of like, whatever, like it's not that big of a deal. You still have to stop them. But then I saw that like their only 2 losses over this time period are 2 teams that they were unable to scout previously. One of them being TCU, because TCU was not expected to make that playoff. And so they hadn't previously scouted, and then they lost to TCU. And so you sit there and that maybe that's a coincidence, right? But like, maybe not. Maybe not. I don't know. What are your thoughts on it as these stories keep developing, Chris?
Oh, no, I mean, my thoughts on sign stealing in general remain unchanged, and that is that it's part of the game. Like, you should be, like, if I'm sitting on the sideline during the game, I'm going to be watching the other sideline to see if I can pick up any tells. It's like poker, dude, right? Like,
Yeah.
Okay, that guy's bluffing because he just gave me his tell. I'm going to find those tells. However, using technology to aid in that, or going out to the games and literally filming only the sideline, that's just straight cheating.
Well, and then like having
that's kind of brutal.
having like a ring of people who go film the sidelines.
Yeah,
Like it was like a group. He had like a cartel of sign stealers. I don't know if you've seen like all the shit about Connor Stallions as like a person either. The dude's a whack job, man. He wrote a manifesto. That is never a good word that you want to hear. A fucking manifesto about the future of Michigan football. And that's what he called it. His manifesto about Michigan football. The dude has been like, he literally like, he went into the military because he saw a trend that Michigan likes to hire coaches with former military experience. He did 4 years in the military to maybe coach at Michigan.
Wow.
The dude is psycho, man. He is
wild.
something else. Something else, dude.
That's wild.
It blew my mind when I saw shit like that. It just
Yeah.
keeps getting
Now,
worse.
Yeah, what's interesting here is when you get into the debate of how punishment should be handed down, and I've heard this one thrown out there, and I know there's a lot of people who would be against it because of the timing, but if anything is going to happen, it needs to be the conference, and they need to do it now. Like if they need to get their investigation, they find the evidence that they did this, and they say, okay, well, guess what? You might be in this college football playoff top 4 right now, but it doesn't matter where you end in the rankings. You're not going to the conference championship game, and you will not go to the college football playoff. Your bowl ban starts now, because here's the biggest thing. If they leave this to the NCAA, we all know how the NCAA works. This investigation won't get a result until 2027. And at that point, Harbaugh's probably already moved on and he's back in the NFL coaching the Raiders or some nonsense. And now the new coach, he has to be levied with loss of scholarships and multi-year bowl ban. And then all these kids who were not involved with that particular team at that particular time have to deal with it. Again, I get it, because everyone counters with, well, it wasn't the kids' fault. They weren't cheating. Yeah, but their coach was, and their coach is part of the team. And you can't sit there and preach all day long like these teams do. Win as a team, lose as a team, right? Well, guess what? The captain of your ship is a dingus and is over here just doing the dumbest shit possible.
Even on top of that, like if you see some of the videos of them with the sign stealing stuff, like you see the players actively participating in it too. So it's not like they're blameless here.
Right.
Like, yeah,
Absolutely.
they don't, like, I mean, they're just doing what their coach says. And on some level, that's like, you know, kind of what you have to do, right? If you want like playing time and stuff, you got to be like a team player. But like at the same time, like you don't have to actively participate in this if you don't want to. You can just not do the signs like they were doing. It's become a pretty nasty little thing.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen, but I think something needs to happen for sure.
Something does need to happen, and probably soon. And the Big Ten did give notice of a punishment. I'm guessing it's not going to be a whole lot. I think if this was, Indiana, we're looking at a different kind of punishment than if we're looking at Michigan, which is the reality of college football.
Right.
Like Indiana probably gets a bowl ban. I doubt. I think the Big Ten comes down with some soft ass like 2 scholarships, something like that. That's what I'm guessing. But we'll see. I mean, who knows? Yeah. They could hammer down like they did hammer down on Penn State. They could absolutely hammer down. I mean, Penn State was far worse than what's happening.
It was also the NCAA.
Oh, true. But still, I don't know, man. We'll see how it goes. Jamie, you have any thoughts on the Michigan sign stealing?
Yeah. All in all, not good. It seems like one of those things that started out as this coach is pretty good at picking up on signs. And it probably started as what Chris wanted, what Chris was talking about, mid-game sign stealing type thing.
Yeah.
And then it probably just turned into, I could go to games beforehand and scout and figure this out. And then he was like, I could pay other people to film them, and then I could analyze that and give you all this. So it probably didn't start out as something bad, as most things don't, and then it just developed into this giant scheme that they couldn't stop.
Once the snowball starts rolling, right?
Right.
Yeah, well, and if you're finding success using it too, like why? Like,
yeah, why stop? Yeah. The whole thing for me is it went too far, and they do have to be punished. I don't think it's going to be quite as light of a punishment as you say, Eli. I don't think it's going to be anything super severe like a bowl ban. It'll probably be something in the middle. But I don't know. I think we'll find out in the coming days. The Big Ten has notified Michigan that there is potential punishment coming, and that's the first step. Now they have to give them like 10 days or something to provide evidence, whatever. Like, there's bylaws in the Big Ten, but I think we're going to know here in the next couple weeks.
Punishment. You're now a member of the Pac-3.
That'd be pretty funny. They would dominate the Pac-3, man. Dominate.
I don't know. They can't steal signs anymore.
True. Okay, so that's the Michigan sign stealing thing. Another big news And for me, like head scratching news, that CU demoted their offensive coordinator on Friday or Thursday of last week, going into the game. Before I tell you my opinion on this, Chris, I want to hear what you have to say.
I just laugh at that because have we all watched Colorado football and said the offense was the problem? is that sounds new to me? And guess what? The offensive coordinator, he calls plays and gets guys in the right spot, but he isn't fully responsible for the fact that they have one of the worst offensive lines on the planet. So this one is, it's a head scratcher when you hear it, right? You're like, that offense is just fine. It's the defense that can't stop a nosebleed, and the linemen can't block anything. So, coordinator's fault. Gonzo.
Yeah, like when I heard this news, I was like, "What?" And it tickled a spot in my brain that I just could not scratch. Like I got an itch in my brain that I couldn't scratch. So I've been like just trying to figure out like why this could be happening, and kind of my only conclusion is there has to be personal differences there between Dion and Sean Lewis, right? There has to be. It's more than scheme. It's more than performance. There is something there, and it may be just that like they hired him because he was a great offensive mind at Kent or whatever, and then like they don't vibe personally, because I look at it like you said, Chris. The offense was productive, right? The offensive line was atrocious, and when I was talking to Jamie about this, like he's saying like that's not all the offensive line, right? They have to be coached. They're having open edges, which means they don't have any tight ends. Their running backs aren't chipping, stuff like that. But they were still largely productive, with the exception of UCLA, which you kind of expect with a defense like UCLA. And I was just kind of like, and really, like you said, to me, it shows, not maybe shows, but like you said, it doesn't feel like the problem, right? Like if you look at pretty much any measure out there, like I went down like deep, dude. I went like nerd ass shit. I went down like deep like statistical analysis of stuff. Like I was like looking at EPA and like ADOTs and like all this shit, and essentially any measurable, that defense is in the 110s in rank on pretty much any measurable except for like depth of target, which makes sense because you've seen the game plan against Colorado this year has been throw the ball over the middle short, and they just run the ball. But yeah, there's also like some weird things that I noticed. Like one of the stats that I saw was that yards after catch in Colorado was the worst in the country, which I wasn't expecting. I don't really know how to interpret that. Like it was like their yards after catch is like they're like not breaking tackles, which didn't really compute for me, but like it was weird. Jamie's shaking his head. I mean that's what I found anyway. But it's just like weird stuff like that. Also, they're the most penalized team as well, in like penalties per game, not necessarily yardage, I don't think, but it's I think it lacks the perspective of like big picture here by firing your offensive coordinator. I guess that's where it really, really gets to me, is like the big picture here is there's a lot of work to do on this Colorado team. And like the offensive coordinator didn't really seem like what needed to be a priority necessarily. I mean, who knows? And Jamie had kind of texted me about like there's rumors of name.
Byron Leftwich.
Coming in and taking the position next year. So, I mean, if Prime has already made that deal with Byron Leftwich of like, of being the offensive coordinator next year, like, why not? I still don't really understand why getting rid of this guy now and then bringing in Pat Shurmur, who really hasn't had a relevant defense since 2013, maybe 2014 or 15 with those Eagles teams with Chip Kelly. It's still a head scratcher to me. That's why, like, I'm just like, it has to be somewhere personal, because like, you know, you're not gonna demote your offensive coordinator midweek off of like a run pass balance or like not having a tight end on the formation when you can just say do those things. And maybe he did say do those things and he kept saying no, and that's the personal difference. But it's just so weird to me, like, all this whole thing. Jamie, you got thoughts? You've been shaking your head the whole time.
I have lots of thoughts. First, they didn't fire Sean Lewis.
They didn't fire. They demoted him, which is essentially.
Second, I think this whole thing has been blown way out of proportion because I was at the game Saturday, and Sean Lewis was on the sideline calling in plays.
He was signaling. That was the whole thing. He was signaling the plays. He wasn't calling them.
They took his play calling duties away. That is all they did. He just wasn't the one calling the plays. It was a function of a combo of they wanted to try somebody up in the box. Maybe there was a different viewpoint. Sean Lewis doesn't like being up in the box. I don't think this was anything other than they're trying to shake it up. You brought up the defensive stats. I can tell you stats-wise, it looks terrible. I can tell you watching this team closely, the difference in the defense from the first 4 games to the last 4 games is staggering. The defense is playing
even with that Stanford
much
game?
better. That was one guy beat Colorado against Stanford.
Yeah,
the rest of the defense,
though.
They couldn't cover one Stanford receiver. Oregon fans should understand what that feels like. Come on.
True.
All right. So, yes, that was a defensive total collapse in the second half. But the first half, Stanford couldn't do shit in that game. Nothing. Okay. So one guy beat them in Stanford. They held UCLA pretty well, right? Not great. UCLA is better than them. Held them 28 points. That's pretty good. Held Oregon State to 26 points. That's pretty good. Is it great? No. Is that what you need to win a conference? Not even close. But the defense is making the difference here, and you guys are pointing out the defense was the problem. Yeah, the defense was the problem to start. The defense has gone like this. It's starting to increase. It's starting to get better. The offense is noticeably starting to struggle. And so they're trying to, if one thing's starting to improve and the other thing's starting to decline, you have to try to stop the decline.
It's still weird to me, though, that they're like essentially, all but firing this dude the day before a game. It makes no sense.
It was Wednesday of last week. And it probably happened on Monday. It just got out to the media on Wednesday. It probably happened right after the game against UCLA. Like, it doesn't matter. It's weird. I don't love the move. I also don't hate it. It didn't really change a whole lot. You're trying to shake things up. You're trying to get another spark out of your offense that has been starting to struggle. You're trying to figure this whole thing out as a new coaching staff with 85 new guys. I want to be clear here.
I don't really care about the move. It probably sounds like I care about the move a lot more than I do. Just because, like, as somebody who's been around football my whole life, it just doesn't make sense to me. There's in my head, this just doesn't compute. I mean, they had like a top 20 offense, and then, like, for all intents and and then it just, like, I get that they stalled out a little bit and they didn't look great, but like,
he shouldn't have done it when he did it.
It just I would say, like, I could absolutely see it at the end of the season, right? Or even like I pretty much at the end of the season, right? When, like, because, like, it's not like I said, like Chris said, it's not like they weren't productive. yeah, they were still backsliding a little bit, but they were productive. I mean, it's just it just made no sense in my brain. So I was just like, why is this happening right now?
But the thing is, I think it does make sense. I think it makes sense in the fact that how often has Prime been in a position where he has to face these questions of motivating the team, and a team that is at 500 or worse? Like, he goes into Jackson and boom, they're right there battling for national championships. And he comes to Colorado and right out of the gate, they're hot. Everything's good. Prime time, right? College game day. Russell Wilson dressing up as Coach Prime for Halloween. He's the talk of the town. And then they got punched in the mouth a few times, right? And now he has to deal with that. So now I think you're seeing a coach who very rarely throughout his entire professional career, I mean, coach or not, has had to deal with adversity. I mean, every field he's stepped on in his professional career, he was one of the best players on that field, right? And so you're seeing that, and it almost, to me, Jamie, not full on, but it almost kind of has that same smell of a panic move. Right. Okay. I got to do something. What's gonna mix it up? Okay. We're gonna demote the offensive coordinator, and that's gonna, they're gonna notice that. They're gonna notice that, and I think that's what it is. I think this is a coach first year D1 trying to figure this thing out. Things aren't working as well as they were for the first 3 weeks, and now you're left scratching your head.
I also think it made me like a little more not uncomfortable, but like, you get what I'd say, where it's just like it gave me brain fuzz of like Pat Shurmur being the guy, being a Bronco fan. We're like, the fuck you mean it's Pat Shurmur? Like, that was some of the worst Broncos offense I've ever seen in my goddamn life. And you're promoting, they had to fire an assistant, right, to promote him. Because he was just an analyst, right?
That was false reporting.
Oh, okay.
You can have as many coaches as you want. They just had to make him an official coach.
Gotcha. Okay. I thought I saw that they had to fire somebody, and I was like, that's fucked. But whatever. It's still. I was just like, Pat Shurmur?
Yeah, it's bad.
And then the weird part to me was like, I guess another part that like it just that makes this all feel so weird to me is that. A lot of the question of like, why is he doing this? A lot of the answer was protect Shedeur more, right? Or establish a run game, both of which went the opposite direction with Shurmur at the helm, right? And so I that's why it just all feels so weird to me. Like Chris said, like it throws up the yellow flag of like, is this a panic move because Prime is finally facing like real adversity on the football field? It may not be, and it may like I texted you, Jamie. I was like, this is a very good coach, bad coach moment, right? And our hindsight's going to be perfect on this. We're going to look back and go, that was a really dumb move. He never should have done that. They were cooking with, Sean Lewis, and then they went Shurmur, and then they whiffed on, Byron Leftwich, whatever. He's a terrible coach. Or Colorado could look like the best team in the country over the next couple weeks, and we're like, he's a great coach. It's one of those moments. It felt like it doesn't compute in my dumb brain.
Yeah, I mean, my takeaways, probably a little bit of a panic move. I think Deion's bringing in Byron Leftwich, and so he's saying, let's try something else. This is going in the wrong direction. Let's see if we can right it this year. So I don't know that it's quite as severe as either of those reactions. I truly think, and Deion's not patient, right? Like I think everybody understands that Deion's not patient. So he wants results, and he wants them right fucking now.
Yeah, but that's like, if you're an offensive coordinator, a good one.
I get it. I think the offense, yes, they put up 43 on Stanford, but that should have been 60. Right. The second half, the offensive play calling against Stanford was fucking atrociously bad. Against Arizona State, should not have struggled to get 40 points, that offense. USC is USC, right? Oregon was the first, and Oregon doesn't give up points to anybody, But that was where it's like, okay, this offense really isn't that good. And if you look at the teams they put up the points against, TCU is bad. Nebraska's really fucking bad. And Colorado State is also really fucking bad. So, yes, hot start. Seemed hotter than maybe it was because those teams are shitty. And so if you're Dion and you're looking at this, you're like, okay, we did what we were supposed to against bad teams. But against good teams, we can't do anything. You know, I think he's just trying to figure it all out. And here's the other thing that I like about it as a Colorado fan, and I brought this up after the game to those that were there with me. If you're a Colorado fan, does losing to Stanford the way that they did suck? Yeah, it's really fucking bad. Does losing to USC suck when that game was winnable? Yeah, that really sucks. Could you have beat UCLA and Oregon State with a halfway decent offensive line? Yeah, I mean, they could have won all of those games. I'm okay that they're not this year because it means nobody's going to come try and poach Dion. Him struggling right now.
Oh, yeah. Good,
but showing improvement at Colorado is exactly what Colorado needs. You talk about not being patient, like fans aren't patient, but this is fine. It's all good. He's bringing in the right guys. He'll figure out the coaching staff. It's all good. It just, I think he's trying to figure it out. The team's trying to figure it out. And it's just part of being on this ride if you're a Colorado fan.
Oof. Yeah, I know for me, if I'm like an offensive coordinator and I see that, I'm like, no thanks. Like,
he and Byron Leftwich will be fine. It'll be
They're
fine.
buddies. I mean, that's like one of the things with like Prime is he's gonna get away with a lot of shit that normal coaches could not get away with because he's got that clout outside of football.
What's Colorado going to do? Fire him? No.
Yeah, exactly, dude.
Byron's going to hold the power in that conversation because when Dion starts coming down on him, he's going to open up. That's how old I am. I just said open up a phone, right? He's going to grab his phone and he's going to click. He's going to just go back to his recently called because he's best friends with him. GOAT, and it's going to be Tom Brady. He's going to be, hey, Tom, will you tell this cat what I know since I coached you? And Tom Brady's gonna be like, hey, Prime, you wouldn't have picked my ass off, so you just shut your mouth.
Tom's already tight with Shador and Dion anyway. It's all fine.
I'm just saying, Tom is what's gonna
Eli
tell Dion the what for.
Back to your other point, which was the best point. The only thing that gave me pause with this whole thing, because I was also getting pretty pissed at Sean Lewis's play calling as a fan. Like, I was like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? I get we're scoring a lot of points. That's because you have really good weapons that score points for you. The play calling was bad. Pat Shurmur, are you fucking kidding me?
Worse.
This is the guy as an offensive coordinator who went up to the mic as the Broncos OC and said, we practiced incompletions today. What the actual fuck is he even doing on the staff?
That's why it's so weird to me. It's like you took a guy
that's the only point.
Shit, it's not the only point. But you took a guy who's shitty and it's like pretty much after that Chip Kelly run, like 2013 or 2015 or something like that, he's been no one. He's been awful, truly. And then like the whole we're like a lot of the reasoning that we're bringing somebody else in is to protect Shador more and run the ball more. And like they ran the ball less and they left a running back in. Okay, here's the I was watching and I saw this. They left a running back in twice. Both times ended up in a sack because they rushed 4 and all 4 defensive linemen won their matchup. And you can't do 4v1 against a running back. Like, it was just like, it's one of those things where it just didn't make any sense to me. But we can move on from this now. We've spoken enough about Colorado football. I was like they're the most popular 4 and 5 team in the country.
That was always going to be the case.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into some other results from week 9. Or 10, right?
10.
Week 10, because we skipped week 9.
Yeah, this was
the rundown's a little
it's
old.
week 10.
We're just gonna run down the ESPN list because I don't put in as much prep as Jamie did, and it's kind of last minute that I was gonna be running down this. So, first off, we have California at Oregon. Oregon just trounced them. Outside of like the weird first quarter, which was like the weirdest first quarter I've ever seen in my life. Chris, did you watch the game?
No, because I was working.
Oh, yeah,
I know what happened, but I was working.
So, listener, there was dueling picks. The first play from scrimmage for Oregon was a slip through the hands because it was wet. Slipped through the hands of Tez Johnson, and Cal made a great play, a really heads-up play, and picked off the ball. Cal then immediately threw the ball back to Oregon. And then, like a couple, I don't know if it was that drive or a drive later, Oregon was putting a guy into motion, and the snap came out a little early, hit the dude in motion, and Cal picked it up and scored. After that, it was all Oregon. I mean, Cal got their own a couple times, but that after those three weird things that happened, this was all Oregon. I mean, it wasn't even close after that.
Dude, that highlight that made the round on social of Bo Nix doing the pump fake and then like ducking under the offensive
Some Michael James shit, dude.
Like, that is one of the craziest things I've seen a quarterback do.
And then
throw that pass. And throw that pass into the middle of three defenders and put it right where only his receiver can get it. Like,
God.
What the hell kind of play was that?
He's unreal, man. Oh, if they can keep playing like this, there's no ceiling for this team, man. They're so fucking good when they're playing like this.
Everybody was looking like we had people over before the Colorado game, and people in the first quarter when it was like, what was it, 14-10 or something, and Cal was close. They were like looking at me. I was like, I am not worried.
Yeah.
Cal scored on a freak fucking play that's not going to happen again. Bo Nix threw an interception. He's not going to do that again. This team's going to be just fine.
It was a freak interception too. Like it wasn't like it was a bad throw or decision.
And then the second quarter happened. I was like, see, it's like,
dude, I was
that. And to Chris's point, that Bo Nix play, I don't know how that's not getting more like cred on social media. That is one of the craziest plays I've seen.
Yeah.
He ducked in between a defensive lineman and an offensive lineman and then completed a ridiculous pass.
Let's just say, like when Michael James did that on a run, it was a highlight for 3 weeks on ESPN.
Yeah. I don't get it.
I don't really get it either, dude. Like Bo Nix is like, they're just kind of glossing over some of the freak shit he does. But dude, I was sitting in the stands. My God, some Oregon fans. Just the fucking worst, man. There was a penalty called on Oregon. It was I think it was a holding or something, and it was just so fucking blatant. It was like the blocked field goal that ran back, and it was like he jumped off. It was very clear, and these guys were like, "These refs are fucking us. They're totally screwed. That's not what happened." I was like, he was offside. Like he was pretty offsides.
There were some really bad calls in that game.
I don't want to that was one example of no, that was a good call. You guys just hate the fucking refs. Like when they call back a good, what would have been an amazing play, but he only blocked that because he was very offsides. But no, there were some atrocious calls. There was that holding, or no, hitting the guy on the ground. Horrible call.
There was that one, and then on Cal's only offensive touchdown, there was Brandon Dorless got into the backfield and was about to literally hit the running back as he got the ball, and he got shoved square in the back of the numbers, right at the point, like literally in front of the football.
Yeah,
like the most blatant block in the back ever.
I didn't see that. I was in the bathroom.
It didn't matter. Like it was a garbage time, basically touchdown. Oregon was already up by 40 or whatever. But I was just like, Of all the shit that you guys call,
Yeah.
you missed that. Like, fuck off.
Well, like it was just really funny because like you, when like at that beginning of that first quarter, when it's 14-10, all these people around me. There was one guy in particular. He was like a 20-something-year-old. He was drunk off his ass. He's like, dude, we fucking suck. How is like this? Blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, dude, I am not worried even a little. Like, there was zero worry in my body in that game. I that was the chillest I've ever been when Oregon's only up by 4. Like, and that defense is unreal good. They're just so good. Chris
It's
didn't get to
maybe
watch
the
the game,
best
but
Oregon defense I've ever seen.
I
mean-
can't disagree with that.
It's right up there. That's been the conversation over the last few weeks on radio, and I've heard it from a lot of people. Like, does this team, as they sit, like, where do they rank among the greatest? And a lot of people are putting them in that conversation, right? And so they're playing well defensively. I think it's a turnaround. I mean, I didn't like what I saw from the defensive backs against Texas Tech. I watched that game and was like, okay, this is going to be a long season. This is going to be a long season.
Kyrie Jackson had a horrible game that game.
Yeah,
He got
and they've
ripped.
turned it around. And the way, like, this is what I expected, and maybe you guys are with me. Like, this is what I expected last year with a healthy flow and Noah Sewell and a guy like Lapoy, who I was like, okay, this is a good defensive mind. But then you started to hear, because I mean, those guys were horses, right? But you just started to hear that, you know, it was an intricate defense and they couldn't understand it, or players and this and that. Now he's getting more of their players in, another year under his belt. And I think even early in the season, it wasn't clicking, but I think it clicked. And once it clicked, you're like, okay, Tosh Lapoy, I think, knows his shit on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, Dan Lanning has his fingerprints all over the defense as well. But one thing this team in particular does better than teams of recent memory, in my opinion, guys, is you can look at all the teams that were at Oregon when we were there. Like, I mean, I remember, the defensive backfield that had freaking Walter Thurman on one side and Jarris Bird on the other. I mean,
TJ
you
Ward
weren't getting
back
a lot
there.
of, yeah, right. You weren't getting a lot of passes off
They were
of
the
those
they
guys.
were the
Those
honorary
are-
captains, by the way, for this game.
Right. Oh, were they really?
Yeah,
That's
they were.
cool. But those are top end talent, guys who went on to play in the NFL. But even those defenses didn't mask their blitzes and fill random holes that you didn't see coming and put pressure on the quarterback like this defense is. The way he runs the delayed blitzes, the way he masks everything, safety blitzes too, everything he's doing. He masks all his coverages so well. Like, this defense makes offenses really, really try to work to see what the hell they're laying down. And so many times this year, I've watched that snap happen, and it's like instantly that pocket's gone. Guys like Dorless are in the backfield, and it's like, okay, this is a lot to do with talent, but I think a lot to do with coaching and that finally clicking, because he has this defense moving in a way that I haven't seen Oregon defenses move before. And I don't think pound for pound, this is the most, air quote, talented Oregon defense that I've seen. I just think they're clicking on all the right cylinders.
Yeah, like one thing that I feel like is really excelled here on this defense is that they are rangy, right? Which, like, we've always seen from Oregon defenses, like, really fast, like you're not really going to beat them on the outside, but when it comes to that inside, like, strength, beat them up, they're also that. Right, like, and a lot of that has to do with scheming, and like, one thing I'm very impressed with this defense is they're able to essentially blitz with 4 guys, right? They're not necessarily like those linebackers. I mean, they blitz a lot, but like, even when they're not, they're masking it, and so the offensive line is confused enough to where you're bound to get one free rusher. The scheme is just so good, and one thing I'm very thankful for is a lot of that praise is going to Dan Lanning and not necessarily Tosh Lapoy, because I love Tosh Lapoy's defense right now, and his play calling is absurdly good, and I want him to not have a head coach position next year.
No, I feel you. I feel you on that one.
So, cool. That is the Oregon game. Jamie, do you have any final thoughts?
My thoughts on the defense, Chris, to your point, have there been more talented secondaries in Oregon history? Yes. Have there been some more talented guys at linebacker in Oregon history? Yes. This is probably the most complete Oregon defense that I've ever watched. And it's just fun, man. Watching that team play defense is fun. And then you flip it over to the offensive side of the ball, and it's just between Bucky Irving, Bo Nix, Jordan James, Troy Franklin, Tez Johnson, you name it. They just have weapons, and that
Literally
O-line.
Any of them.
And that O-line is just eating right now. I mean, eating.
Let me tell you, the biggest thing that has impressed me this year is the development of Jackson Powers. That dude,
he's a certified stud.
That dude bullies people. Like, I don't know if you've seen some of, like, I watched some of his highlights, and like, he is just running people the fuck over. It is so impressive to watch. They're doing a lot of really cool pulling and like offensive line schemes that really, I mean, it does give an advantage to the offensive line, but like, these guys, they've meshed so well in almost no time.
Yeah, I mean, it's not only the most complete defense, it's the most complete team. We've said it a lot. This team will beat you any way that they have to.
Yeah.
And people are going to say, well, they lost to Washington. It's like, well, yeah, we've talked about it. They were one play in 5 different occasions away from winning that game. So this team, like you said, Eli, there is no ceiling. It's just a matter of can they keep it all together for this last month.
Mm-hmm. And like, it just, you know, we're going on, we're just writing a love story to Oregon here for a minute on our podcast. That's okay. It's our podcast.
We're allowed to.
I tell you what, man, the growth Dan Lanning has shown this year as a coach too is great. And some people are gonna be like, well, he still goes for it on 4th down. We have talked about that. We defend that to the death. But like, just like a lot of the mistakes he made last year that were kind of egregious are not happening this year. At least we haven't really seen them, or at least they're not as detrimental. So
big one this weekend.
Big one this weekend. We'll get to that in a bit. Next up, we have Oregon State at Colorado. Oregon State pulls out the win, 26-19. We've kind of talked about this game. A lot of this game, I think on both sides of the ball, was just really sloppy football. I don't think either team played well in this game. It just wasn't a very good game. I don't know. We've talked about it a lot. I just don't think it was a very good game for either team. Chris?
I think Oregon State's taken a step back. I don't like what they have been putting down for the last few weeks. Like they're a good team, but they should be better. They lucked out at Utah. Again, I was at that game on the sideline every single play. I mean, I thought Utah outplayed them for large stretches. They just had no quarterback. And with no quarterback, Oregon State stopped the run and they played well enough to win. But you look at this game in particular with DJ Uiagalelei and that roster, I mean, and the fact that they can put pressure on a quarterback. I mean, they should have. Personally, they should have walloped Colorado. They should have walloped them, and they left a window there. And that's, to me, I think a good team doesn't leave a window against a team like Colorado. I didn't expect what Oregon did to Cal. Not that big of a gap, but that same game. Like, I expected Oregon State to kind of dominate this because they have the dogs to do it, and I don't understand why they're not. And that one is the confusing part to me. Like, they're winning games, but they're not winning games handily. Like, they're winning dirty football games. Some of them they feel lucky, and I want to believe in them, but I just don't know if I do, because I haven't felt like this team at any point in any game has really just been oh, there it was. That was the moment. Finally, it all clicked. They dominated every single facet, and it was just, the 50-point blowout that it should be. This game I thought was really, really weird, and Colorado stayed in it way too long.
Jamie, any final thoughts for you?
If Colorado had an offensive line, they win this game.
I agree with that.
The defense played really well. Are they Like, if we're comparing this to top-notch defenses in the country, it's not that. But the defense played well for Colorado. If Colorado had an O-line and a healthy Shedeur, Colorado wins this game. I am also
hand in hand.
Yeah, but you know,
Shedeur goes
if they had a healthy if they had an O-line or a healthy Shedeur, I think Colorado might win this game. You know, this is going to be what it is for Colorado. We can stop talking about them. Oregon State, Chris, I'm on the same train as you. Earlier in the year, I would have said they have a shot at upsetting Washington, and I would have been more worried about that Civil War game at the end of the year. I'm starting to not be super worried about that now.
Yeah, and I still think they have I think they have an ability to upset Washington because of Washington being one-dimensional on offense, and I think Oregon State has a good rush defense, and Washington has no rush offense at all.
Agreed.
So I think, again, strengths match up with weaknesses, so they have a good chance there. But just real quick, guys, like when I say you haven't seen that game where they go, oh, there it was, everything clicked. Just look at the Pac-12 slate, the conference slate, okay? Oregon State opens up, they lose by 3 to Washington State. Then they beat Utah by 14. Then they beat a terrible Cal team by 12. Then they beat UCLA by 12. Lose to Arizona, and then they beat Colorado by a touchdown. Like, none of those are dominating wins. None of those.
And
Colorado
several of them should have been.
And they should have been. Colorado should have been a dominating win. Utah, I can understand because Utah's defense was healthy and legit in that game. But Washington State has fallen off a cliff, and they lost that game. Cal, again, you look at what Oregon did to
Washington
Cal.
State was still playing well, though.
I know, but I'm saying they've fallen off a cliff. But again, you look at what Oregon did to Cal, and if Oregon State is as good as they say they are, and Beaver fan thinks they are, then they should have won that game in a similar fashion, right? 52-14 or something like that, but they didn't dominate that game. The only game that you can look at and like, oh, that was domination. I mean, it was the first two. San Jose State 42-7, and then UC Davis 55-7. Even the San Diego State game was a 26-9 game. And to me, that is a team that is leaving the door open for bad teams to stay close. And that's a recipe for disaster to me. I mean, because they're lucky that it hasn't been them, but you can't tell me that going into a game like against Stanford, that, okay, you've seen what Stanford does, and if you leave the door open for them, they'll find a way to take advantage. Yeah. Oregon fans know that all too well, right? So I just wish Oregon State would, like, this. Maybe this is the perfect weekend. Just go out there and stomp Stanford, right? Win by 28 points. Absolutely dominate this thing. But quit leaving the door open, man. You got to slam it shut.
Yeah, hard to argue with that. That was pretty solid. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to move to the next game. We have an absolute shootout. No defense. Washington taking the win 52-42 over a reeling USC team. You want to give your initial thoughts on this one?
Excuse me. Yeah, I had UCLA winning this game because what'd I say?
UCLA.
Oh, I'm sorry. Whatever. I had USC winning this game because of the same reasons. I think Oregon State has a chance. Like, USC can put pressure on a quarterback. They don't have a great rush defense, but Washington has no rush offense, so it was going to be a shootout. And in that type of game, a team like USC can win, right? And they damn near did. But Michael Penix made big plays down the stretch. Washington got the win, and that's a tough one for him because, again, just the way the matchup is, I was not going to be shocked if USC won it. I picked them to win that game, in fact. But, again, I think this is interesting. The fallout from that Oregon game, and I can't remember who said it. It may have been one of our guys over there on Rip City Radio, who said that what it feels like is that Washington put all of their eggs into the Oregon basket, and since that game, they have just felt flat. They haven't felt like the same Washington team as where Oregon quickly moved on and adjusted and has looked like the best team in the country, honestly, the last few weeks. And I believe that because Washington is way too talented to look as bad as they've looked over the last 3 games, right? Like they are way too talented to struggle against Arizona State, and to have this one come down to the late fourth quarter to me. But that's it to me. I think they put everything into that Oregon game, and I feel like they're still playing exhausted from it.
I largely agree with you on that. I actually had Washington in this one to begin with, I think. I will, like, in a shootout, I'm going to take Caleb Williams most of the time, not when Penix Jr. is against that USC defense. That USC defense is atrocious. They are so bad. I'm taking Penix against that all day. He's just ripping them to shreds. Weirdly, though, Washington won this game on rushing. Their running back Johnson had 26 carries, 256 yards, and 4 tuggies.
Isn't that wild?
That's insane for a team that has been rushing I don't think they've had over 100 yards this season.
For a team that beat Arizona State with 17 yards total on the ground,
that's
wild.
They come out.
I told you USC had no rushing defense. I didn't expect Washington to come out and run the ball effectively because I thought their offense was truly that bad, but they found a way.
I mean, the guy was averaging nearly 10 yards a carry. He was a walking first down, a running first down. It's insane. But yeah, I mean, like you said, Washington does still look exhausted from that Oregon game. And USC's defense is just that bad. They're just that bad.
Terrible.
They're so bad. And I cannot wait for next week to watch this running game against. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Jamie, do you have any final thoughts on Washington USC?
No more thoughts than what you guys said, but I do have a question.
Yes.
Watching this season and the way it's unfolded for USC, do you have questions about Caleb Williams and his ability to be a superstar in the NFL?
No. Because I think a lot of his slides so far, one, I mean, the kid has to be Superman every week, right? The mental aspect of that is clearly getting to him, right? You saw him get emotional with his mother in the stands, and it's clearly getting to him that he has to go out and be perfect every week, otherwise they lose. And in the NFL, that's not necessarily going to be the case. You don't have to be perfect every week, especially if he goes to a place with a decent defense. So no, I mean, the tools are still all there, right? It's just, I think the mentality of it has gotten a little bit to him recently. He's still making freak plays, right? I still think he's going to be an absolute stud. All the people who are ranking Drake May above him after the last couple of weeks, I think is absurd. And I like Drake May as a quarterback, but I think that's absurd to put him above Caleb Williams or even Michael Penix for that matter. So maybe a little bit, if the mentality doesn't bounce back, if he if it really plants a seed of doubt in his mind that he didn't have and he can't get rid of it for some reason. But outside of that, I mean, the tools are all still there. He could still make all the throws, all the plays. He's really accurate. I'm not that worried about it.
Chris, how about you?
I think the question you pose is really interesting because to Eli's point, he has to be Superman every week, but just because a man plays like Superman doesn't mean he's going to be a superhero at the next level. To me, the way he plays, everyone automatically compares him to Mahomes, right? Because Mahomes does this stuff at the next level. To me, I think Caleb Williams plays more like a bigger Johnny Manziel. You must have been thinking the same thing.
Same thing.
Like Johnny Manziel. I mean, he pulled the rabbit out of his hat. He made the best out of broken plays, and it was a lot of the out of the pocket and break a tackle and still get the ball out. And that's what Caleb Williams does a ton of. And then Johnny Manziel fizzled out because I think when you get to a point where you have to play within the pocket and play within the team scheme because you actually have dogs at every single position at the next level, and that Superman thing doesn't work because guys like Aaron Donald are running 4 or 5 40s on you. The world comes smashing down on you really quick, even if Eli could block him 1 out of 10 times. Doesn't matter.
Not right now.
That means the other 9 times your That means the other 9 times your quarterback is on the ground. So that's what
I disagree with the Johnny Manziel thing.
Well, 2 against 1.
Okay, cool. Because here's the thing, Johnny Manziel, while it is like it is a lot about like the off schedule, make these weird ass like break a tackle, spin 3 times kind of throws. When Caleb Williams sets to throw, he throws a dot. When Johnny Manziel set to throw, he threw it up in the air and let Mike Evans do all the work. Right? So like that comparison to me is kind of like not great because Johnny Manziel mostly thrived on luck. And I don't think luck and having a 6'4" monster of a receiver, and I don't think Caleb Williams is doing that. Right? He is thriving in the off schedule and making these incredible Superman plays, but like he's not just hucking the ball up and hoping for the best like Johnny Manziel did.
Caleb Williams is not Johnny Manziel. I don't think we're saying he is Johnny Manziel. I think there is more Johnny Manziel to his game than there is Patrick Mahomes to his game. Now, he has all the talent, arm talent, physical attributes that Patrick Mahomes has to be that. But if you look at his tape, and there's some tape out there of people analyzing this, he does not go through progressions well at all. So if you're looking at why NFL scouts may have Drake May ranked above Caleb Williams, it's shit like that. You can't just run around and then wait 15 seconds for a receiver to get open and then throw it 80 yards in the air because your arm is so good and succeed in the NFL. And that's what he does in college. So the comparison is not apples to apples with him and Johnny. It's just a little closer to Johnny than I'm comfortable with saying he is going to be a certified stud in the NFL. The other thing, if you're looking at, like, we're talking about Oregon, right? And we're talking about Drake May, but let's go back to Bo Nix. Bo Nix reads shit at the line and calls audibles, does everything that you're looking for from an NFL quarterback, and goes through his progressions, does checkdowns when he needs to.
Except that Washington game.
Except the Washington game.
Where he just locked on to Franklin every single play.
And it worked for a lot.
Gave me PTSD of Justin Herbert and freaking Mitchell.
It's true. But I just don't see that out of Caleb. Now, he's so supremely talented that he doesn't have to. There are a few flags starting to come up. Am I saying he's going to be an absolute bust and not do anything in the NFL? No, I'm not ready to say that. But there's enough there now that I'm like, maybe he's not the second coming of Patrick Mahomes. That's all.
It's so funny, though, that we're all like comparing him to like the second coming of Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes was overlooked, right? Like,
100%.
That's the weird.
That's that's who he's being compared.
Yeah, I know. It's just funny because people like, when people are saying that, they're acting like Patrick Mahomes was that guy in college. He wasn't. Like,
I don't think that.
No, I'm not saying you guys are. I just see it a lot.
See, the difference is Patrick Mahomes to me is a pure pocket pass quarterback who has all these abilities to get out of the pocket, and he doesn't automatically snap the ball and then look to find ways to break the play, right? He wants to make his progressions first, and then when it's broken, he gets out. And that's why I compare Williams to Manziel. And Shedur's going back to his old habits right now and doing the exact same thing. It's I'm Superman. Snap the ball, roll out. Snap the ball, roll out. Snap the ball, roll out, and let my God-given abilities just take this thing over. Now, pound for pound, talent-wise, Eli. Now I get where you can go. Okay, what do you guys say? Because Caleb Williams, in my opinion, is leaps and bounds better of a quarterback than Johnny Manziel. right? It's just that fact that Johnny Manziel won games because he went into Superman mode. Nobody could stop him. The rest of the team was just a question mark, but he was fucking Johnny Manziel. And Caleb Williams has done that a lot in the same vein. So they play similar in that way, which is why I didn't even answer Jamie's question. I said it's an interesting question because of this dynamic with it. Uber talented, but leans on some aspects of his game that will just get your game destroyed at the next level.
Also, to be fair, let's be a little fair to Caleb on this here. Is if there is one offensive line that is worse than Colorado's, it's USC's. So he kind of has to play like Johnny Manziel because he's running for his goddamn life.
I haven't seen it. I didn't see it at Oklahoma, and I haven't seen it at USC. Now, again, he could have that. There's just enough question marks that I'm like, he's not a slam dunk superstar in the NFL. That's my whole point.
Okay. Let's move down to Utah, Arizona State. This was the only game I did not get to see over the weekend for the Pac-12. Do you guys have any takes on this? Did you guys watch it? What it looked like? I mean, it looks like an absolute fucking smashing.
Didn't watch it. Looks like I didn't need to.
Chris, did you watch it?
Sir?
Okay, cool. We're just going to move on then. Utah absolutely clapped Arizona State 55-3.
Oh my God, dude. They had 83 yards total.
Yeah, dude. They got cooked. And like a Kenny Dillingham offense too. Like credit like
that's been improving.
Yeah. Yeah, so Utah came out and played pissed. So
which I feel lends way more to that Duck victory when everyone's talking about, well, injuries this or Utah. Dude, Utah's defense, even with injuries, I think is still really good. Again, I lean on the fact that I was at that game live at Oregon State. I still think Utah is pound for pound the best defense in this conference. They're freaking good. Good. Oregon's in that conversation. Don't get me wrong. But Utah's defense. Utah's defense gets so much out. Like, we don't need to go down this road. They're just really good defensively, okay? And then they just completely clobber Arizona State a week after Oregon just obliterated them. Again, I think that's nice. At the very next week, they're like, yeah, we're still a good defense, guys. Maybe Oregon really is that good, is what I'm sorry to get at.
Looking at this box score, it's just making me feel very vindicated on my fact that I think Oregon is a very good team.
Very.
We also felt that leaving the Utah game, all the Utah fans, like none of them were uber upset because they just looked at us and they're like, you guys are really fucking good. They weren't like, we suck. Like, what are we doing? It was like, holy shit, you guys are.
Oregon's a good team.
Yeah.
Well, and a couple of them were like, "Well, we're starting a pig farm or whatever, yada yada." But like, here's the thing: I think Barnes is a pretty good quarterback. He's not going to blow you. Like, he's a lot like Cam Rising, but like not quite as polished as Cam Rising, where he's a great game manager, where he's just going to go out and like he's gonna put you in positions that you want to be in. He's a very good Utah quarterback, right? He's not gonna play at USC, but he's a good Utah quarterback, right? And everybody knows exactly what the Utah quarterback is.
Yeah. I don't know. He's a healthy Nate Costa.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? You're not really upset that he's in there.
That.
He's serviceable until the starter gets back in there.
Yeah. You're still gonna win games with him even if the starter's not there, right? He's not gonna gonna like absolutely blow the season off the rails. So but regardless. All right. So none of us watched that game. We're just inferring everything here. Next is the Arizona UCLA game. Man, Arizona is hot right now. Woo, buddy. Against a very good UCLA defense. I mean, they only put up 27. But if you would have told me this 4 weeks ago, I'd have told you you're fucking high. That Arizona was going to come in and beat them 27-10. And I'm not super surprised that UCLA isn't scoring points. I mean, their quarterback situation is a fucking mess right now. But Arizona, man, Fafita is the truth.
He's good.
That dude,
he's fun, man.
There's something about whatever he does. Like, statistically, it's not like he's like that much crazy better than DeLauro was. Statistically, I think he's way better. Let's put it out here. Let's keep it 100 here. He is way better than Jaden DeLora. But like statistically, there's not a crazy huge difference between the two of them where you're like, how is this team all of a sudden crushing people? But his energy, the way he plays the game, he has completely turned this team around. And you got to say it. Jedd Fisch has to be in running for Coach of the Year, right? If this keeps up for the season, he's got to be there. Him or Mike Gundy, right? What he did with Oklahoma State this year, like the complete midseason turnarounds, unbelievable shit, man. I fucking hate the Arizona schools because of what they've done to Oregon over the years, but it's fun to watch them play right now. Watching the Wildcats play football is fun. I don't know how else to say it. Jamie's got something.
If there's one team in this conference other than Oregon that you don't want to see on your schedule right now, it's Arizona.
Yeah.
They're playing really fucking good football.
Yeah, dude.
It's impressive.
Kind of makes you realize why McMillan went there over Oregon. No, I mean, it doesn't, because Oregon's still way better. And McMillan probably wouldn't even be seeing minutes right now if he was at Oregon.
That's why he went to Arizona.
But yeah, dude, this Fifita kid just came out of nowhere, and it's just an absolute baller, dude.
Yeah, he's fun. He's real fun. What's crazy to think is that Arizona is at 6-3, and we talk about the turnaround. I mean, those 3 losses are by a combined 16 points. Like they've been in games. Like but now they're winning those games, which is where the turnaround is, right? You went from losing close games to winning them, and winning them. Some of them, even the box score looks close, but they're dominating these games. Like they're a scary good team. Like I think you just said that, but it's like if there's a team not named Oregon that I wouldn't want to play right now, it's Arizona. It's absolutely Arizona.
Yeah, man.
And yeah, I definitely think Jedd's in that conversation, Coach of the Year, because this is quite the turnaround from last year. They're playing deadly, and I do think a lot of that is the energy that Fifita gives them. I think they know that they give him a chance. He's fun quarterback, man.
Yep. Finally, we've got Stanford, Washington State. Real dud of a game. And Washington State has absolutely fallen off a cliff. If there's the opposite of Coach of the Year, you got to give it to Dickert, right? The fact that they started the season great. I mean, they beat a Wisconsin team that's winning their division in the Big Ten. Now, it's not saying a whole lot, but
that says zero.
That doesn't say anything. But still, I mean, they're a division leader, and they beat a fairly good Oregon State team, and then they've just fallen off the planet. Total regression in every facet of the game. It's just, I don't even know what else to say. Like they just fucked up real bad. Any other thoughts from you two? No?
I'm really pissed at Washington State for ruining my Stanford under 3 wins on the season bet. And Colorado, for that matter.
Let's talk about that one too.
No, we don't need to talk about that
anymore. Okay, cool. We'll just move on from that. We'll move on to a couple notable outcomes here. Ohio State, Rutgers. Ohio State struggled in the first half, actually going into the halftime down 9-7, but then really taking care of business in the second half. This game ended up not being close. Any thoughts?
I'm still not sold on Ohio State. That's my thought.
Georgia, Missouri goes into Georgia to play between the Ivies, Ferns, whatever they are.
Hedges.
I'm just fucking around. Yes, it's the hedges, dude. But Missouri, actually, this game, Missouri kept it close, and I really haven't been that big of a believer in Missouri this year. But watch this game; they're a legit team. And also, I'm not necessarily sold on Georgia still. It's a little combination of both. Missouri's better than I thought.
Same.
Georgia's still not. They haven't impressed me yet, really.
Same.
Chris?
Same.
Cool. Same.
That's why I think this year is absolutely imperative that the Pac-12 gets a team into that college football playoff because it's wide open.
Yes.
It is wide
open.
Freaking open. You cannot tell me or anybody who watches college football right now that Oregon or Washington on a good day wouldn't be competitive with Ohio State or Georgia or Michigan or Alabama right now. Like, it's wide freaking open.
Wide open. Okay. Going another one. Michigan continues to beat up on kind of the bottom half of their leagues. Nothing really there. I'm still, on. You'll see with ranking, I'm still low on Michigan just because. What have they done? Aside from beat kind of crappy teams, but let's see what else is there.
So I have a question.
Yes, sir.
You're high on Ohio State.
I'm not high on Ohio State. I mean, they're number one, but they have the best resume.
They arguably,
but
they've
it's
also
not arguable.
They
have a top 10 win, and they have another top 25 win. Nobody else has that in the top.
They have the two best wins. They have also played a lot of shit, and they haven't looked as good playing the shit as Michigan has.
Okay, but Michigan, the best team they've played is Rutgers. I can't. When there's no team to really test a team, you don't know what they're made of. I can't put them just because the eye test. I can't put them above a team that has a top 10 win. I can't, in good faith, put a team that has played teams that are barely 500 in a lot of cases. I mean, to above a team with a top 10 win and a top 25 win. I can't do it when Michigan struggled too in first halves. I can't do it.
Okay.
I can't do it. And like I said, this will all work itself out.
It works.
They have to play Penn State this week. They have to play Ohio State in a couple weeks. It doesn't matter. This is all my fucking fluff. But in my personal rankings, I cannot put a Michigan team that has they're beating teams with I think their average win is 4 wins, whereas I did some math. The average win of Michigan's opponents is 4 wins, and then the average of Ohio State's 5. But you have a top 10 win in there. I just can't do it. I can't do it.
I mean, this week may fix all of that.
It may fix all that, and we just don't know yet. But yeah, sure. in all good faith, I can't put a team that resume has to play a part of it for me, and
that's fair.
Okay. Texas escapes from Kansas State this week. Tell you what, without Quinn Ewers, this is a whole other team, isn't it? It's a whole other team.
They should have lost that game. They deserve to lose that game.
They absolutely should have lost that game. Like I said, a whole different team without Quinn Ewers at the helm. Here's some fun things for the podcast here. Little bit of grumbling coming out of Texas, saying that Arch Manning isn't super happy there, and that a lot of people are saying likely landing spots to get him a starting role immediately, Oregon next year. So could be fun. So sign me up for it. I love Ty, and Ty looks great. Ty looks great right now. I'll take Arch Manning all day. Thank you. Alabama, LSU, really kind of exposed that LSU team. A lot of people are still really high on Jaden Daniels after losing by, nearly 20 points, which is weird, but or high on the LSU team. He played fine. I mean, Jaden Daniels, he did some pretty cool things in there, but Alabama looks to have kind of turned it on a little bit. Like I said, I'm not really necessarily a believer in this LSU team, so I'm kind of still skeptical about it, but it's a good win. Jamie shaking his head.
Alabama's going to win out, and they're going to be right there in the fucking college football playoff conversation. It just shit pisses me off. Chris already has them in there.
Chris has them in top 4 right now.
Fuck off. Come on. not like David Shaw's coach.
Nice.
That is though. Joking aside, I mean that is worst case scenario right now.
Bad.
If Alabama continues to win and then beats Georgia in the SEC championship game, there's a realistic chance that a one-loss Pac-12 conference champion gets left out for a one-loss SEC non-champion. Just again, the precedent that they've set. We've seen this before with the committee, and that would be so frustrating because the conversation even right now is what conference has been the best conference top to bottom all year long. Pack. And so this is interesting because, again, I think Justin Myers, our morning host, made this point this morning that you look at the college football playoff rankings and the best one-loss team, Pac-12. The best highest ranked two-loss team, Pac-12. The lowest ranked undefeated team, Pac-12. Okay, that one makes a ton of sense. And this is setting up for either, granted, different things to play out, but this is setting up for Oregon or Washington to get host.
That is terrifying to me because I know it'll happen, even though a lot of the narrative around the SEC this year is that they are nowhere near as good as they've been in the past. And it doesn't matter. It's still the SEC. If Alabama wins out and Georgia's only lost to Alabama in the SEC championship, I fully see somebody being left out. And it's going to come from the Pac-12 because of history.
That means
not
two
even
conferences are left out. Because one conference, one of the Power Fives left out every year.
Yeah.
No matter what. It's going to... That is absolute nightmare.
Well, it'll be the Big 12, probably. I don't know. Or
Michigan,
ACC, Florida,
Michigan or Ohio State's getting in.
Yeah, but Florida State's undefeated and has no challenge the rest of the way. I think they are the biggest fraud of a team right now because they haven't really faced a challenge. Oh, they beat Duke. Yeah, it's a basketball school, guys. Yeah, and the same LSU team that we all just said, oh, people are high on, but I don't really believe it.
No, I know.
Because I don't either. I don't either.
I actually did my rankings this week, and then immediately afterwards I was like, I need to fucking drop Florida State. Like, I have them at 2 just by default. But I'm like, I need to fucking drop them.
See, where did I put them? I think I have them at 4 because I think I have Washington.
If ever I need Mario Cristobal to go out and do something, it is this coming week.
Cool. Let's keep it moving here. Oklahoma State upsets Oklahoma. I think we've all kind of known Oklahoma was a fraud this year. I think it's a lot the same way as Washington is with Texas. Right? They put all their eggs into the Texas basket, and they really haven't looked any good since. And Oklahoma State, credit where credit is due, is playing incredible ball right now. They look like a great team right now. This Gordon kid, their running back, is a fucking stud. Just an absolute monster. So Oklahoma goes down again. So I don't know if you have anything to say about that. That's like the last. I mean, Clemson beat Notre Dame for Notre Dame's 3rd loss.
Oh my gosh! It's almost like early on this season we said Notre Dame was overrated.
No,
it's almost as if I said that there's no team.
I actually thought they might be good.
Oh, yes, but it's almost as if I said no team lives off the heritage of its name more than the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, who gets plopped into the top 10 every single preseason poll. Oh, this is the year they're going to do it. And then they only stub their toe multiple freaking times every single year. This is deja vu all over again with Notre Dame. It's unreal. Like, if you want to talk about narrative, the reason that this team gets pushed into the top of the rankings to start every year is because a giant-ass company that used to employ me is very financially invested in them playing well. Like this is not rocket science. Unbelievable. Go in and lose to Clemson, who's just been atrocious. And also screw that Dabo guy. I wasn't with you guys last
So Jamie
week,
sent me a TikTok.
but-
oh God. I got to tell you about this TikTok. Sorry, I totally interrupted you.
Do it.
The
Brandon Walker.
Yeah, Brandon Walker of what's the podcast he's on? I've just seen his TikToks. I don't really follow the podcast. What is it? Pardon my take? No.
I don't know. It's
Whatever.
not part of my take. It's the college football one for
Unnecessary Roughness.
Barstool.
Unnecessary Roughness. Brandon Walker and I don't even know his co-host name. They were talking about there's only 2 programs outside of Clemson.
Casey's his co-host.
Casey, yeah. That don't want Dabo Swinney. And they said those 2 programs are Georgia and Alabama. And they even said that Alabama might take him because of Nick Saban might be retiring, kind of thing. Okay. How long does Nick Saban have? And they were like, so basically they're like, there's no other program because Dabo Swinney, there's been grumblings about him this year because they suck. But they're like, every other school outside of Georgia and Alabama would take Dabo Swinney over their current coach. Not a chance. I don't want him anywhere fucking near Oregon.
And that's not. I don't think that's Oregon homerism either.
No.
Like if you walked up to a Husky fan right now, would you rather have I like to fight with random fan Dabo Swinney or Kalen DeBoer, who has my team winning and has erased the sour taste of Jimmy Lake? Yeah, I'd rather have Kalen DeBoer right now. There's a lot of teams I think would rather have their current head coach than Dabo.
I mean, I feel like largely it's not that big of a secret that he scooted by based on having generational talent on a team in a conference that was historically bad outside of Clemson. Florida State, most of his career has been garbage. Most of Dabo Swinney's career. The rest of the ACC has been garbage pretty much since 2000. Is that a secret that Dabo Swinney skates by?
The only thing that Brandon Walker said that makes any sense is he's the only one that put a stop to the Alabama dynasty, beating them twice in the national championship. Fact that he did do that. I wouldn't take him on either of my teams over either coach that I have. Not in a million fucking years.
I mean,
Nope.
it's like again, like Oregon
Would
State.
Utah?
Do you think?
No.
No one.
fucking shot.
You'd have to. Yeah, like Whittingham's a lifer. And do you think
State?
any Oregon
No.
State fan would take Dabo over homegrown boy Jonathan
Do you think
Smith?
Arizona
No.
fans want to make a change right now? No.
No, they're liking fish. So, dude, that's wild.
No shot.
I mean,
And the weird thing is, and because I like Brandon Walker, I think he's hilarious and he has some good takes. He also has some shitty takes, but that's what makes him fun. He hates Dabo Swinney. Like, he is so anti. It's the weirdest. I don't know if he just did it he had to just be doing that for clicks.
I had to. Yeah.
Because if you go back and look at it, he fucking hates Clemson.
They do that for
and
clicks.
Dabo.
We do this show for substance, boys. We speak with our pads.
Fucking what a trash
yeah, Dabo's record speaks for itself, and I think there are a large percentage of schools that would love to have him. But
For sure.
to make that blanket statement is wild. I mean, look at what Oklahoma State. Like again, Gundy. No, that guy's a lifer too. Do you think they want to? Yeah, we're gonna trade Gundy right now for Swinney.
You think Michigan's not going to keep Harbaugh? They're going to come in and get Dabo Swinney? No.
Ohio State, I think, is
Ryan Day.
Day.
Ryan Day is kind of.
Well, Ohio State fans are
Yeah.
maybe the dumbest people in the world.
Yeah, but fans Ohio State wants to get rid of their coach the minute he loses the game, and again, so does every fan base. I mean, we saw the fire Dan Lanning after the Washington game, but that's a wild assertion because I can think of a lot of teams that would rather have their head coach. Even if they're not, pound for pound a better coach, it's just better fit and things matter to those communities, man.
Yeah. All right. That was a freezing cold take on their part. Remember when your involvement was just cold takes, Chris?
Yeah. Yeah, right. But Dabo, don't you wish you just had like the balls and of course the financial backing to just go on a public forum and just be like, if my employer doesn't want me, then they can just get rid of me. I'll go somewhere else.
Right.
A lot of people would like to have me.
That'd be nice.
Like, dude.
I wish I had that clout.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, Dabo, what an annoying ass coach.
Dude,
I really
Dabo.
wish he would have just stuck to his word and left the minute NIL became a thing.
I know.
The minute you start playing players is the minute I'm out. Well, guess what? You're playing players. Yeah. Well, I can't just walk away
Also,
from $11 million.
He
Like-
was paying players before that. Let's not like throw stones in glass houses here, Dabo.
No, it was
under the table.
No, it was as soon as we have a level playing field, I'm out. That's what that
Yeah,
was.
exactly. What it was, yeah.
That's exactly.
All right, let's jump over to next week's preview. Pac-12. We're gonna
Wait,
what?
rankings.
Oh, rankings. Yes, Jamie, you're gonna do our rankings because you have them up.
I'm going to do our rankings. Then we'll go over the CFP rankings, maybe just the top 10 in the CFP. Our rankings, we have top 5 is Ohio State, Michigan, Georgia, Florida State, Washington. Next, we've got Oregon, Texas, Alabama, Ole Miss, Penn State, followed by Louisville, Oregon State, Utah, Mizzou, Tennessee, and Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, LSU, Tulane, James Madison, and then rounded out with Arizona, Notre Dame, North Carolina, Liberty, and UCLA.
Nice. So
Nice.
those are our rankings, and we're sticking to them, guys. So right now, the college football playoff rankings go as such. Fairly similar to what we have. Not quite, though. They have 1 through 5 is Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, Washington, Oregon, or Washington. Next is Oregon, Texas, Alabama, Ole Miss, Penn State at 10. Then we got Louisville, Oregon State, Tennessee, Missouri, Oklahoma State at 15. Then you got Kansas, Oklahoma, Utah, LSU, Notre Dame, and then rounding out with Arizona, Iowa, Tulane, North Carolina, and then Kansas State at 25. I think I texted you, Jamie, during when I was doing my rankings, and I was like, dude, after fucking rank 15, I'm just throwing spaghetti at a wall. And like, it's almost to the point where it's like, what are we even doing this for, right? There's only 4 teams that this matter to, right? And that's the playoff teams. And so really, outside of the top 15, is there any team that's going to make the playoff?
No, and outside of the top 11, there's not. Once you hit 2 losses, you're out. There have never been a 2-loss team in the playoff. So really outside the top 11 now, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So it was, I kind of was just kind of like, yeah, these guys for the most part, right? Or it's just like, I stopped putting a little bit of thought into it because it really doesn't matter.
I mean, we should almost just change this to our top 10 every week because that's really what matters. But it's fun to do all of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn right
it is. All right, so that's our rankings going into this upcoming week.
Yeah.
So now we
wanna
will
call-
go into the Pac-12.
I was gonna say, I don't want real quick though. I don't want to call you out, but I think our rankings are wrong. Because how is Kansas not in our composite 25 when all 4 of us rank Kansas in the top 20?
Must have had a bad calculation in my spreadsheet. So
I'm just asking. I was like, did I mess up? Did I put a team in my top 25 that is shit in Kansas? And I looked, and we all put Kansas in our top 20, and it's not on our composite top
I
25.
fucked that up. So
Guess what? They're 25th. UCLA's out by.
turns out.
It's all good. I was just asking.
No, it's good. It's good to call me out like that because sometimes I miss stuff like that. So the way I have to do this in the Excel spreadsheet is really convoluted, and I've tried different ways to do it, and there's just like it's a mess, right? Like pivot tables aren't working right, it's a whole mess. So I do a lot of like inputting this by hand stuff, and so I'm not surprised if there are errors every now and then.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Kansas would be in around 19 and UCLA would be out. That's
what
difference.
we're going to do. But anyways, so we're going to go into this week's game slate. We're just going to go down the ESPN list again. We're going to start with Arizona going to Colorado. Arizona's currently a 10.5-point favorite. We'll start with Chris. How you feeling?
Bear down.
Bear down. Jamie.
Arizona, and they'll probably cover.
I have Arizona to cover as well. Next up, we're going to save that one for last. Utah going to Washington. Washington, a 9.5-point favorite. Chris. Ooh, he's thinking. He be thinking.
Yeah, honestly, Oregon dominated on the road. I think if this were on the road with the way Washington's been playing, I would take Utah. But if Utah's going on the road, I think I'd take Washington. It's going to be an interesting game, especially on the backs of what you just saw at USC and just a shootout in the offense, giving their all. I like this matchup. What'd you say the spread was? I'm looking at it at 9.5. Ugh. I'm going to say Washington and they cover, but it's a close one.
Jamie.
Same.
I'm going same. Largely outside of the Arizona State game, Washington is a much better team at home than they are away. So I'm taking Washington on that one. Next on the slate, we got Washington State going to Cal. Cal being a 1-point favorite. This is an interesting one. I don't know. Chris, what do you think?
I like Cal in this one. I think both. I think Cal. It's easy to want to say, oh yeah, look what happened, but they ran into a buzzsaw at Autzen, and I do think, all things considered, that team has been a lot more even than Washington State's downhill trajectory on the road in front of the dozens and dozens of Bears fans there. I'm taking Cal, and they'll at least win by 3 times that spread.
Did you say dozens and dozens?
And
wow,
dozens.
big crowd for the Cal Bears this week. Jamie, what do you think?
Same.
Man, I'm struggling with this one because, like, it's just hard to believe that Washington State took this hard of a nosedive and they're not pulling out of it.
Yeah, but they did.
I know, but it's hard because, like, Cal's not a great team. They can. I mean, it's going to be Cal. I'm picking Cal. But, like, I can see Washington State having a bounce back game any of these games. They might not, but man. But yeah, I do like Cal against this. Ott is a great running back, and he's just going to tear him to shreds. One thing that's weird about Cal, though, they can move the ball between the 20s. That red zone offense is bad. So we'll see how that holds up. I also like Cal to cover. Obviously, it's 1 point.
It's not bad recently.
Really?
I mean, they put up 49 on USC. I get it's USC, but
yeah,
49's 49.
But even in that game, when they were in the red zone, they were not great. When, like, if you remember, like, the last, like, quarter of that game,
you're right.
They were really bad in the red zone. So they're hit and miss,
right.
But I'm still giving it to Cal. Next up, we've got Stanford at Oregon State. Oregon State is a 21-point favorite. Chris.
Oregon State wins. Oregon State covers. I would not take them to cover that spread if it were in Stanford. They're a much better team at home, just like Washington is. And again, they've been playing good. They just haven't dominated. And I think Stanford is right there for a game for them to finally dominate one.
Oregon State wins. Stanford covers. I don't know if Oregon State's going to dominate.
I'm going with Jamie on this one. I'm going Oregon State to win, Stanford to cover. I think Stanford, I don't want to say like they're sneaky good, but they're sneaky not awful. They're sneaky, not the maybe not the worst team in the conference, right? They're better than you would necessarily think they are. That being said, I could absolutely see them getting smashed. They're really inconsistent. 100%. They're very, very inconsistent. So I'm going Oregon State to win, Stanford to cover, and then finally, we have Arizona State going to UCLA. UCLA is a 17-point favorite. Chris.
UCLA wins, Arizona State covers.
Jamie.
Same. UCLA can barely score 17 points, much less win by 17 points.
I'm going UCLA wins and covers. Gut feeling. No evidence behind that. Gut feeling. And then finally, we've got the game of the weekend for Pac-12. Actually, technically not. That's Washington, Utah. But for Oregon fans, for this podcast, the game of the weekend is USC coming into Autzen. Oregon is currently a 16.5-point favorite.
Wow.
That's a crazy spread.
Started at 13.5. I wish I had fucking placed a bet then. Damn it.
Chris.
Oregon wins handily. I mean, this is a really early interesting game because they're going to get tested defensively, but there is no way on God's green earth that USC stops that Oregon offense. Now, Oregon might be able to stop that Oregon offense. Don't get me wrong. We've seen that happen before. But USC ain't stopping it. The fact that Bo Nix had, 300-plus yards passing last week in the middle of a monsoon when all they should have been doing was running the ball. This guy's on one right now. The Ducks are playing very, very well. USC's reeling. The only scary part about this game is a lot of times when teams are struggling at a specific spot, we already talked about the offensive coordinator situation at Colorado, but the offense wasn't struggling. They're just trying to mix something up. But when you finally cut bait and say, okay, we're done with you as a defensive coordinator, even though we should have never hired you in the first place, that's the type of thing that can rejuvenate what is a really, really bad defense. So that's the only thing here that gives me just a little bit of pause, but Oregon still wins this game.
Jamie.
Oregon wins and covers. This one's probably going to be close at half because USC is going to score. You just can't cage up Caleb Williams that bad unless he's hurt like he was in the Pac-12 championship game last year. So they're going to score, but Oregon's going to pull away in the second half. There's just way too many ways that Oregon can beat you. And I think that defense is going to make the adjustments they need to in the second half and pull away.
I've got Oregon winning. I think the line is fairly spot on right now. I would take probably USC to cover. I could see a 2-point win here. Two score. Jesus Christ, not 2-point. 2-score win. I'm with you. 14 feels like my gut number, right?
When it was 13.5, I was like, yeah, that feels right.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go USC to cover barely. But Oregon wins, and I feel like this is one of those games where the score will not indicate the gap between the two teams. That's my gut feeling on this, is that Oregon will look way better and outplay USC all game, but USC will get theirs and still somehow be in it a lot closer or score some garbage time. Other notable games. Go ahead.
I'm just gonna say, if Dylan Johnson, who has rushed for 686 yards all season, and 256 of them came against this USC defense.
Bucky Irving's going to have himself a day.
Bucky Irvin is going to have a day.
Here's the thing. Here's the funny part about this. I would not be shocked to see Jaden Lamar have 100 yards and he'd be the third running back on the squad still. I'm genuinely not. I could see them rushing for 400 yards. Cool. Next we've got Michigan at Penn State. Kickoff is at 9 a.m. or so, big noon kickoff, which is really unfortunate because this would be a dope-ass night game, but it is what it is. Michigan is currently a 4.5-point favorite. What do you guys got? Chris.
Michigan wins, Michigan covers, but Michigan finally shows they're not as dominant as they have been in every other week playing cupcakes. This is a 6 or 7 point victory.
Jamie.
Michigan wins, Michigan covers. I'm thinking it's closer to 10 to 14 points, but it's not going to be as crushing as the rest.
Yeah, I'm kind of along the same lines. It really depends on the Drew Aller that shows up. If it's, the last big game against Ohio State, Drew Aller, then Michigan wins. Michigan covers by a lot. But if it's normal Drew Aller, then I'm more along the lines of like a set one score victory. Any other notable games here? Florida or Miami at Florida State. We're actually going to root for Mario Cristobal again. Florida State is a 14.5-point favorite.
Feels about right.
I'm rooting for Miami.
I'm rooting for Miami
Go
hard.
Kings.
Tennessee goes to Missouri. Tennessee is a 1-point favorite.
That's a really good game.
Really good game. Chris, how you feeling?
I like Mizzou in this one. I think Tennessee's good, but they've just shown too many holes and been a little bit up and down for me. As where I think Missouri is I think that's a really good football team. I truly do. I think they go in or not go in. It's a home game, but I think they approach this game, go into the game, and I think they win this one. I don't think a lot of people have them beating a team like Tennessee most of the time, but I think it's a great year for them. They're going to get the dub.
Jamie?
I think Mizzou wins too. Tennessee's got Georgia at home next week. This is a tough Mizzou team that I don't think they're overlooking, but I think they're going to get punched in the mouth a little harder than they expect.
Yeah. I also have Mizzou winning. I think Tennessee as a team has a higher ceiling than Mizzou, but they have a much lower floor. They are still a deeply flawed team. And
especially on defense.
Yeah, I think Missouri is like a more well-rounded team, a more consistent team. And like I said, I haven't even been that sold on Missouri, but it shows you how sold I am on Tennessee this year. So I'm going Mizzou. I think I found my best bet of the week, though. You guys want to hear it?
Mm-hmm.
My best bet, I think, is Oklahoma State at UCF. Oklahoma State is playing great ball. They are a minus 2.5-point favorite on the road. UCF is a okay team, but they're actually really not that okay because they're 1-5 in the Big 12. I think Oklahoma State blows them out. That's my best bet.
Agreed.
Let's see. We've got then our last ranked matchup is Ole Miss going to Georgia. Georgia is currently a 10.5-point favorite. Where are you at, Chris?
This is my upset. I think Ole Miss goes into this game, and I think they win it.
Ooh, I like it. I like the Moxie kid. Jamie.
That was my initial pick when I first did our pick'em this week. I picked Ole Miss in this. I'm gonna stick with that. Georgia just has not looked like the Georgia of the last 2 years. That Ole Miss offense seems like it can be the final straw that breaks Georgia's back. So I am also going to pick Ole Miss.
I'm going to go Georgia, but I'm going to pick Ole Miss to cover. I think Georgia was very vulnerable at the beginning of the year, and the farther we get into the season, the less vulnerable they are. I still don't think they're the teams we've seen in the last couple of years, and they're still beatable. Don't get me wrong, they're still very beatable, but I think as the season progresses, they're getting harder and harder to beat. So I'm going to take Georgia to win, Ole Miss to cover. We did get super producer Cameron's picks. Cameron is picking Zona minus 10.5 to cover. He's picking Utah or plus 9.5, so Utah to cover. He's picking Cal, Stanford, or Cal minus 1, Stanford plus 21, ASU plus 17, Oregon on the spread as well, and he said Ole Miss versus Georgia as well. I don't know what he meant by that, but
I think he's picking Ole Miss.
Okay, gotcha. He's picking Ole Miss at Georgia. Cool. Any other notable games you guys want to talk about real quick, or are we good to go, boys? I think that's it, gents. Unless you guys have a best bet you want to talk about.
I think that's it. No, my best bet's the same as yours.
All right. Well, Chris, since it's going to be a rarity, you're coming on. Let's hit you with that buzzer beater, huh? So, listener and viewer, thank you for being here. We appreciate you stopping by and talking to us, hanging out, listening to our sultry, dulcet tones. Thank you to Zeta June for the outro music that will not be playing this week because super producer Cameron is not on the live stream. And thank you to super producer Jamie this week in the background, and super producer Cameron every other week that he's here.
I don't think you can call me super producer. I'm more like super inputter.
Super chimer inner.
Yeah.
Jamie. So with that, Chris, hit us with the buzzer beater.
This one's going to be simple. You guys saw me sipping on some brews during this episode, and I am a big supporter of the NBA, as you know, but there is not enough Kona Brewing or Terramana Tequila in the world to make me think those abominations unto the Lord that are the in-season tournament courts are awesome. Burn them all. They're made of wood. It's easy. It's flammable. Go back. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, NBA. You're stupid.
Deuces.